Hello, everyone, and welcome. Now, today I wanted to do a comparison video, right, between the different Picnic at Hanging Rock adaptations and the original book, right? So I have three different adaptations here. Well, the original being the middle one, and then the adaptations being the Blu-ray film from 1970, I want to say 1975, and the television series that aired in 2017. And I believe it came out in physical in 2018. So yeah, these are the different comparisons I'm going to talk about today. I've watched and read all three of them, and I feel like it'll make like a great little video. Maybe it'll even recommend you guys to watch either the film, read the book, or watch the television series. So I've got my notes here. Shouldn't be a very long video, but as you know, sometimes I do go a bit longer, but we'll see. So right, it only feels right to start with a book. Here we have a book by Joanne Lindsey, I believe. Great cover art there. Of I believe a girl lying down, perhaps on the grass or a rock. Yeah, this is on the vintage company Vintage. They do great. Great, I believe. What would you call this? A restoration of a book. Obviously, it's not the first edition, but they bring out some really great books, guys. Yeah. So, how many pages have we got here? Let's see. We have 190. We have 196 pages. So it's not a very long story. Depending on your reading level or how fast you get through it shouldn't take very long. It's 195. You get some like Dune. They're a lot longer, and Lord of the Rings, right? So anyway, it's palatable. It's not too complicated in its language or its plot. The characters are not very very substantial. And that is something that I'll say off the bat about the book. You do have a plethora of characters here, but none of them are delved into too deeply, which is where mostly the TV series comes into, actually, where they actually like expand on all these characters, because Lindsey does offer more to these characters and what she actually brings to the table. So Picnic at Hanging Rock is a story about like a boarding school of girls, and they go for a picnic or it's set in Australia. So they go, I believe, that hours out into the more barren lands of Australia, and they go to this this big mound of rock, and they call it the Hanging Rock. So they go there not necessarily for a bit of sightseeing, but they go there predominantly for a picnic. But a small group of girls, they decide that they want to wander off and visit the rock before they have to trek back home to the school. And it's a thriller. It's a mystery because multiple characters do go missing. Three schoolgirls go missing, and a teacher. It's gripping. It truly is gripping. I love this story, and I love what each adaptation did to it as well. Seeing it play out visually, because there was a risk of it, not being adapted well. Because when I read this, I truly imagine what is going on. I can sense it all. I can see it all. So seeing it adapted and liking it is a joy. Yeah. So what do I have in my notes here about the book? Her writing, like the chemistry between the characters. Specifically, there are two male characters, two young lads that see these girls go off briefly before they go missing, and one's like from a very wealthy family, and then his power is like a stable hand, someone that helps out with the animals and whatnot. Very very capable utilitarian lad. He's not as like well off as his mate Michael, but Albert is poorer, but he's very like he knows the lay of the land of Australia very well. Whereas Michael is from like he just moved from London, I believe. So he's like a city boy out of his depth. They're both heroes because they both feel compelled to sort of, Michael more so feels compelled to like search for these girls and sees, you know, the loss of, it hits him hard as well because he's young as well, and he can see that the life is very it can be sucked up into the ether very very easily. Anyway, yeah, I like their chemistry. Albert is one of my favorite characters. I love the writing. I love what he does. I love how humble he is. He doesn't make a show of anything that he does. He just does what he does what he wants to do. Does it really well, and he's the unlikely hero of the story because he helps to rescue one of these girls, and he doesn't ask for anything in return, but he's granted a very sizable reward from Irma Leopold, who he helps rescue. Um, and I think that's really touching and nice for someone that doesn't ask for anything in return. He's just a normal nice lad. Um, yeah, I mean, I like how it's all set up with like the whole, these girls are very like innocent, but they're very sort of human at the same time. They talk about like morbid things, quite grim. They talk about death because that is what, we like to think of like kids and fairy tales and whatnot, but they also like, they understand things more and more as they get older about what's around them, and they're more aware of their own, I guess, mortality, but not as much as what an adult would. And it just offers like some great sort of like dialogue between the girls, where they're talking about these more grown up things. Now, and it's funny because once these, like, obviously the central premise is obviously the girls going missing, right? But once, I think that happened in like before the halfway mark, right? That's like the first third of the book, and it never sort of like lets up from there. Once they go missing, and then even once Irma Leopold is found, the story continues from there. It's still a rich story because as a reader, you're wondering whether the two other girls are going to be found, and the teacher, or whether they're going to be found, like dead bodies are going to be found, or whether we hear something, or whether there's going to be something at the end of the book, detailing maybe something in the future, or we're left like gripped about how this story is going to like conclude. But I feel it's a story of just a day in the life of humanity, and like the seriousness of just what a simple day can bring, from beginning to end, no matter who you are. The unknown, but there's beauty in that. How Joanne Lindsay writes it. There's beauty in the unknown and the mysterious, and the sorrow, and all the awful things that can come of what happened. Um, there's also like fortuitous and advantageous moments for people that don't even expect anything to happen with their lives. Key and point, Albert, and then Michael. Finding perhaps like a young love with Irma Leopold. His head's not in that game. He's a young lad, and he wants to explore, but you could see where these like love is found from that, and there's lots of different like coupling going on. Like the staff at the school is coupling with other people, and there's happiness and joy, but there's also like a realization of life is short, basically, and anything could happen. Um, Now, one thing that's like I'm very critical of, and basically the teacher that goes missing, Miss McCraw, she's I'm not sure if she's like just the mathematics teacher or she does a variation of things, but she's like very she likes mathematics, right? And the book makes a key point of that, of characterizing her as this like boffin of maths, and I think it really serves the character well because it shows a transition between her being quote unquote normal, her average day and day self, as the pupils see her. They sort of like make fun of her for being, you know, very like not joking around, And anyway, like you can see very, and this all happens very early in the book because then you don't see Miss McCraw again. But having her, you know, making her this person that talks about him, makes an gradually as she gets to the picnic, she changes how she talks. What she's talking about becomes more, would it be not lucid, but more the way that it's framed is more like she's along with these three girls that are like wandering around, becoming more ephemeral, more with the planet rather than being in reality and being this firm, stern teacher. And the two adaptations on the screen do not do that whatsoever. And it's just a shame. It's just a misstep for me personally, because I think, yeah. Anyway, and also, another. Whereas the book done that greatly with Miss McCraw, I think it with the 190 under 200 pages, it doesn't. So Miss Appleyard is the head teacher of the school, and she's depicted as perhaps having a drinking problem, and she's got demons of her past that she can't let go of, and it affects how she treats children in her school, and it's actually quite awful. And monstrous the way she treats some of the pupils, particularly Sarah. I think believes Sarah Wayborn. She's like a younger pupil that's quite tenacious and fiery. Yeah, so like we never delve into Miss Appleyard's true identity. It's just left there. Most of the characters are left as what we want to interpret them as. Maybe that's what the author intended. I guess it could have been more than 200 pages, but this is the story she wanted to write, and Miss Appleyard is not fleshed out, whereas in the other adaptations she is. She's a great character nonetheless. The dialogue is still really good. Well, what am I going to touch on with the book? Okay, that's all I'm going to touch on with the book. Now I'm going to go on to the second sight Blu-ray of Picnic at Hanging Rock from 1975. Directed by Peter Weir. This is a beautiful film. It's just pure vibes. It looks amazing. Shot on film. It captures the nature of Australia. The sounds, crickets and whatnot flying around, and the nature, the water, the costume. Man, the costumes kill it. They look so killer. This is just a film that you can stick on, especially during the summer. Here in England, you could just, be symmetrical with the weather, what's going on right now, and just vibe out to Picnic at Hanging Rock. It is beautiful, it's amazing, it's sensual. So Michael and Albert, I had my own, perhaps I'm being stereotyping, but I had my own vision of what Albert looked like, and he doesn't look like that in both of the screen adaptations. I didn't like the portrayal so much here in the film version of Michael and Albert. I didn't necessarily believe their chemistry. Although it's a faithful adaptation to the dialogue, so they say a lot of the things that they say in the book, it just didn't feel as what I interpreted when I was reading the book. The love I felt for how they bonded over time. I didn't feel that as much. Yeah, the costumes are great. Just the girls are captured in this sort of like not the girls are captured in, like, they're giggling, they're moving their dresses in sort of like the camera captures it in slow motion with these 360s, and the way that they're sort of like the youth is captured, but also they feel like they're in a different world. It's all like sort of blinding light with the costumes, especially because they're so light. They're basically the girls are treated differently from any other character. They're treated the way the way the cinematography is with the nature of what's on film. The girls are also treated in that light as well. Yeah, and I mean, by the end of this film, like I said, along with the book, it continues with its like its mystery and its dire consequences and how things escalate over time by suppressing things and maybe not being so open. And like um, you get more murders, you get suicides, you get a lot of things by the end of this film that plays out beautifully on the screen. And like I said, I just wanted to reiterate that there's sad subplots with like how Sarah is being treated, but there's a sincerity there which comes after like the kids being damned um and lost to time, and like there's commentary on like the press hounding people after like tragedy and creating these stories. But I mean, in Miss Appleyard's case, there is something to unlock there. But like it's true in that the press hound things and don't let sleeping dogs lie, and then that infects students. So when Irma Leopold is rescued and recovers her health and goes to visit her former boarding school, the kids hound her in this scene that's really well done, because you've got this French teacher who's arguably my favourite character. She sort of defends Irma Leopold when she's getting hounded in this beautifully filmed scene where the kids are just going at her, young Irma, and that was done really well. Okay, now that's I'm finished here with my talk on the second sight release from on the Blu-ray. Now to the Picnic at Hanging Rock television series. It's 5 hours. Oh, so with the Blu-ray is 1 hour and 40 minutes. So it captures everything. So everything the book did, the film does. So that's beautifully done. You can't ask for more or less. And it done well with its runtime. Um, Now, what I love about the series is it's 5 hours, and one might be cautious with like something that like bloats something to epic proportions where it doesn't need to. But in this case, I've watched this twice now, and I'm always excited to watch it because the 5 hours expands on everything that you want it to expand on, right? It goes way like beyond your imagination, because this expands on people's backgrounds and fully fleshes out things that you may not have even considered by reading the book or then watching the film. Like I say, the film is a faithful adaptation of the book. Um, the television series is faithful. It does everything that the book does, but then it just goes further with everything. Um, the costumes are amazing, impeccable. Irma Leopold wears some stunning outfits, especially once she returns. But Miss Appleyard, played by Natalie Dormer, she wears some killer attire. There she is on the back there. Um, yeah. Also, you have you have you have Samara Weaving in here. I love Samara Weaving, and I'm just looking at the back now. She isn't even on the back cover, which is weird. I mean, she may not have been as famous in 2017, but that's shocking. Anyway, so that's the series. Obviously Natalie Dama plays the lead of Miss Appleyard. I think she's quite young to be playing Mrs. Appleyard, but I'm not sure what age she was given in the book, if she was at all. But she doesn't have to be an older lady as she was um, portrayed in the film. At first I was a little bit nervous about how she was handling like how she appeared being like this head teacher, but I warmed to her eventually once we fleshed out her backstory in London, being like an orphan and whatnot. I sort of grew to her, but I will admit at first I was nervous of her portrayal. But I thought over the 5 hours she really, and then by the end, once you get these dramatic conclusions, once it's all found out, and once the the locals and the police and the fellow staff sort of like work her out to be more of this like, not necessarily, you could picture her as a monster, but someone that has done despicable things in the past, and she's trying to bury it so much with her alcoholism, and it's coming out in like disastrous ways where it's conflicting with her wanting to it's conflicting with her being a guardian and looking after children, right? And that's scary in itself. let alone the disappearance of the children. Yeah, so again, Miss McCraw is not given that sort of side to her with the mathematics boffin side, which is sad given the 5 hours. But every character is fleshed out beyond the scope of anything we've seen before, and for that alone, the television series is worth it. I've got some quotes here from the television series. "Shut up, you evil goblin." Um, that perhaps that was a Sarah Wayborn Sarah line. And another line is "Don't creep about like an oyster." Thought that was another great line of dialogue. Michael and Albert, the actors that portrayed them, I preferred them in the series. I thought there was, especially Albert, there was more conviction to him. There's a scene where he's like, he finds Michael sunstroked, lying down, and then Michael utters that he's found the girl. He's found a girl or one of the girls. So Albert just sprints towards the hanging rock, and he goes in search, and he finds her, and it's just so, the way it's filmed is also like very like there's like an action element to it. Like there's like real urgency, and that's like at the end of episode maybe 2 or 3. Episode 2 or 3, and everything to do with the last like 10 minutes of that episode is really well done. It's very is it the word frenetic, thematic? It really works. It's well paced, and then obviously the episode ends, and then it leaves you like really wanting more. So, and there's also a scene where like Edith is like this young girl that's like always moaning and whatnot, and she's younger than the rest. And she doesn't disappear with the girls, and she's questioned, and she in all these iterations she doesn't say much. She only says like 2 stories about what's happened. She's not very helpful. And there's a moment where she's sleeping, recovering. She's like all sunburnt and whatnot. And then Miss Appleyard is seen, I think she's got like a glass of whiskey, and she's seen like hovering over Edith's bed, just watching her sleep. And then I think Edith opens one eye, perhaps sensing her presence, and like Miss Appleyard is just staring at her, and it's quite sinister, quite creepy. Thought that really worked. Albert in this one, he feels less stereotypical, whereas like in the film he was like, I feel like more of a stereotype of sort of like that person that is like more of a stable hand, more of like not intellectual, but here he's like, he has like reasons for being, he has family, he has his own sort of idea of what he wants in life. Again, the attack on Irma by the girls, as I told you about in the film, is really well filmed here. With this one, I don't like the cinematography as much as the film. It's not as beautiful as the film. But the girls are like, before they go off, they're like, because they're wearing such light clothing as well, like light dresses, like they're shining, again to reiterate their other worldly presence in this world amongst the adults and whatnot. To feel as if they're part of this group that is unlike any other, and I kind of like it. Kind of like that they're glowing, but like other than that, the cinematography is not as beautiful. Yes. And there's another line that goes. It's like a to reiterate the upper class mentality at the time of like keeping the all white skin tone. Is a lady is given only one complexion, she must protect it, and that's like I think one of the lines given by Miss McGraw or Miss Appleyard at the beginning, where the schoolgirls are told they can take off their gloves at a certain distance along the picnic because they're not going to be seen anymore. They have to uphold this sort of like presence of being a lady. I just thought it was quite interesting. And they have to keep their hats on though. They have to keep some dignity as it was in the time. Yes, I think I'll finish it by saying. I think I'll finish it by saying I love Sarah. I think her name's Sarah Wayborn. She's like the younger student. There she is. There, she's the younger student. She's infatuated by the older girls, particularly Miranda, but she's played beautifully by the actor. She must be pretty young at the time, and she just done a wonderful job of like having a rivalry with Miss Appleyard, and she just done a wonderful job. So yeah, and again, the French teacher is expanded upon. Whereas, and I always wanted that because she's one of my favorites, and she's got love interest, she's got conviction, she stands up for herself by the end, and yeah. So her and Sarah Wayborn are my the two characters that I love the most with Albert, and why I love this television adaptation. So there we go. That's my analysis of all three: my book versus film versus television series. But they're not up against each other. You can choose any at any given time. And if you haven't watched the television series, give it a watch. I'd say it's worth it. If you haven't bought the second sight edition, it is vibes. So check it out. And the book is where it all began, and it's my favorite version of it. Like most books are to adaptations. So thank you very much. I hope I've recommended something to you, or you've taken something from this. Whether you've heard something that you haven't taken from these films before, or you're thinking about giving them a try. Thank you very much. Nice one.